Hi, this is Tyler from Stockscores. In this week's episode of the Market Minutes, I'm going to talk about how to trade abnormal stocks to make profits. We will look at the overall market. We will also look at crypto and the US dollar, of course, commodities, oil, and gold. I will then look at the day trade of the week on EXPR, and we'll do a market scan in search of some of those abnormal stocks to trade each and every day. That's all coming up. So one of the things that I focused on in my trading career is to trade those stocks that are abnormal. The stocks that attract a large crowd of emotional investors can make massive and often irrational gains. But it doesn't matter if it's irrational. If the stock goes from $2 to $6 in a day, well, that's very lucrative. And so the point of the matter is we want to focus on those stocks that are very actively traded, which means they have a high number of trades, and have trading volumes that are very abnormal. Now, I will show you at the end of the video how to do a market scan in search of these stocks. But once we have that short list of abnormal volume, highly liquid stocks, something I called super alpha stocks, we then look for breaks from predictive chart patterns, whether we are day trading off of the 2-minute or 1-minute chart, or swing trading off of the 10, 13, 15-minute chart. These patterns are very predictive. Now here is an example of a stock that I would call a super alpha stock. It began trading abnormally most recently right there on June 17th. You can see the jump in volume. I can tell you it was also very abnormally trading in terms of liquidity. It traded over 200,000 times on Friday and has been trading big volume for the last week or two. Well, once we get the clue that this is a stock that is in play, that the market is gathering around, then we look for the breaks from predictive patterns. So here we had a break from low volatility. We had a breakout from a rectangle consolidation there. We had a little breakout from a pennant there, another pennant pattern break there, a break through resistance here. So you can see over and over these simple patterns come up on different charts. Now this is a 13-minute chart. If you were also looking at say a 2-minute chart or a 1-minute chart, you would see even more patterns. So the key is just to have that short list of stocks that are very abnormal. I'll show you with the market scan how to find them. And then focus on those stocks each day, just a short number of stocks, a few charts you have to watch, looking for those predictive pattern breaks. All right, let's get into this week's market analysis, starting off with the US markets. We had a good comeback this week. Of course, last week I was a little worried because we had broken that upward trend line and had gapped down, but we came back nicely this week and have essentially made back all of the losses and more. We have managed to close above resistance. So this, of course, was caused by concerns about inflation after the Fed made some comments in their regular address regarding inflation. That had the market spooked, but the spook lasted 3 days, and we're back into that upward trend as there's just so much money floating around needing a place to land. The long-term chart, you can see an upward trend on the S&P, therefore we are bullish long-term. On the NASDAQ, we have also broken to new highs. Not as enthusiastic as the S&P 500. I would say there's some of the excitement from the technology stocks has worn off a little bit, but there's still opportunities here. You just have to be pretty selective. Here's the Russell 2000, and you can see we've been stuck in the sideways trading range. It's called a rectangle consolidation. We do have a little bit of a rising bottom there, and so if we can break out from that rising bottom, then that would be decent potential. Hasn't happened yet, but we're very close. I expect short term we may pull back a little bit because we have rallied into resistance, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can make that breakout and go into another upward trend like this, which was extremely lucrative. It was just such a great time for retail traders from October until mid-February. Moving along, here are the Canadian market indexes. That is the TSX 60 Nice upward trend, maybe pausing a little bit the last couple of weeks, but still the momentum is up. On the small cap side, real lack of life here, and kind of typical for this time of year. You tend to see the micro cap Canadian market sort of go quiet into the summer, but that should start to pick up again in the fall. On the currency side, we have the US dollar made that abnormal break to the upside on those inflation concerns. It now has to get through this resistance. It's made, call it a double bottom. So it's looking better, but I think it still has work to do. On the crypto side, I've been a bear on cryptocurrencies for a few months because that upward trend line was broken here. And since that time, we've been sort of edging lower. I don't see any reason to think that it is going to reverse just yet. There are no signs of a bottom. And so I would remain cautious with Bitcoin. Same can be said for Ethereum, which is also falling into support. It should bounce on the ETF right around in here at $15. But we'll wait and see for that to happen. I would still avoid it until it can show signs of a reversal. On the commodity side, we had that breakdown in gold. We were sort of pausing this week, but I still think more likely to go lower than higher, probably into that support zone. So I would be cautious with gold and gold stocks. And on the oil side, we have great upward momentum. My only concern is these stocks in many cases are up a lot already. And so chasing them when they are in strong upward trends is getting a little risky. I think we've probably got another 10% upside on oil before it starts to hit some resistance levels. So good to hold these stocks if you own them, but initiating new positions is a little bit risky. And finally, the fear chart. We had that little spike of fear a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago. It has come back down again, and once again, fear has fallen away. So my ratings then, bullish on both time frames for US and Canadian stocks. Gold, long-term neutral, but short-term bearish. And oil, bullish on both time frames. Stock markets managed to resume their upward momentum, but the strong activity in individual stocks is sparse. Every day there's a handful of hot stocks that are well worth trading, but you have to narrow in on those, and I'll show you how in just a moment. We want to be selective and patient when trading stocks because we're in that quiet period before the next round of earnings announcements begins, which will be around the second week of July. Now, the psychology around crypto has gone negative, so I recommend some caution there. Gold has lost its luster while oil continues to trend higher. And as I said, fear is low. All right, let's take a look at the day trade of the week. And this is an example of one of those super alpha stocks, the really hot liquid names from Friday. It was trading very strong volume. You can see very abnormal volume. And it gave us a number of entry signals. On my day trader strategy, you can see it triggered right there at the pink dot. We then had my Stockscores pullback play strategy triggered there and there. This is a superhero pattern, but not a great one, so I probably wouldn't take that trade. Ultimately, the trend went parabolic. When trends go parabolic, you want to sell when the parabolic trend line happens, and that occurred right there. So if we look at the economics from the initial entry, for every $100 of risk, you would buy 1,000 shares. That required $6,050 of capital. You can margin stocks like this, typically 3-to-1 because it is above $3, although some brokers may have margin limitations on this stock because it is so volatile. If we assume you can margin it, that means $2,020 of capital required to take the trade. At the exit signal right there, it was up 20 times its risk. So this is your risk, and it was up 20 times that. So that meant a $2,000 gain for $6,050 capital invested, which would be a 32% return. However, if you were able to use margin, that's now about 100% return on your capital on less than a one-day hold. All right, let's get into the Stockscores market scan, and I'll show you how I find these so-called super alpha stocks. Now, on the active live service that we run through Stockscores for active trader members, I build these lists from TradeStation, which is a program that I love to use. But you can also build a list of these super alpha stocks in Stockscores about 45 minutes after the open. And then you have a short list of stocks to watch through the day with your real-time charting program. So what I like to do is build a scan that has bullish candle. That means the stock is up for the day. You don't have to do this. You could just leave that at all candles. And in fact, early in the day, I recommend that you keep it at all candles. What you do want, however, is stocks that are up. So let's say that they're up at least 3% over the last day. And here is where we want to get that abnormal volume. So that's going to measure the statistical significance of volume, and it only finds the abnormal ones. And then we want number of trades greater than 50,000. Now you can even make that 100,000, but 50,000 is sort of the minimum. All right, and then we're going to go down here to run market scan, and we'll get a list of 12 stocks that on Friday were quite abnormal. There you can see Express, which we talked about, SPCE. I could click on this and you will see the pattern. And if we look at the 2-day pattern, you can see that really intense abnormal volume. And then it's just a matter of looking for the patterns that build on a stock like that through the day. Because these stocks are so liquid, because they're so abnormal, it's easy to move in and out of them without a lot of slippage. You can trade pretty substantial trade size because they have such great liquidity. Well, that has been the Stockscores Market Minutes for June 28th. Hope that you've enjoyed it. If so, please click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, trade well.